Hello and welcome to my tutorial for the Codex level builder for Godot. So what you want to do is you want a layouts folder for all of your level layouts, because LevelTile nodes are not very performant in-game and you don't want to use them in-game, just in layouts. So we'll just create a new scene, we'll just call it layout, save it in the layouts folder. Then you want a node 3D, just call it geometry or whatever you'd like. We've got another one, we'll call this output. Now the geometry is where you're going to put your LevelTile nodes, and output is where you're going to put the final geometry. So what you want to do now is create a new level builder node. And here we've got some base variables, and these are the most important ones. You want to set your output folder to that, geometry folder to that, and the scene root to your scene root. And you've got a lot of configurable settings, we'll get to that later. Now, basic thing we want to do is create a LevelTile node. You want to make sure grid snap is on up here. We'll just turn the environment off for now. Just a quick tip, if you want the right kind of lighting, just for diffuse default, just have a white ambient light on a world environment node to get the right kind of lighting setup. Now for readability, we want to get our geometry and probably pull it up. We want to move it up because the offset gets removed, so it'll just build the geometry down the bottom. And we can just create a quick little test scene out of these LevelTile nodes. Just you can duplicate with Control D, and yeah, once you've got some kind of basic level, you want to go down to the level builder, and if you do build level geometry, voila, and you can track in the output here any errors you get or any optimizations. So if it has too many faces, you might want to do some manual work or redo the layout of your level a bit. And it also says how many materials, and you want to keep that to a minimum as well, just for performance. And you've also got the amount of tiles, and it will show you other things depending on what you do. But if we just go down and look at the output mesh here, which is in the output folder, and it's got collisions and everything. If you go inside, you can see the faces have been culled, so there's no extra faces like you'd see up here. So we've got a lot of settings to play with on our level builder node. For example, we have the world scale. We could set that to 3, for example, and we could get taller levels. Here we've got the face shading, and we can specify face shading. It has this kind of Minecraft style voxel shading by default, but you can customize this. This is just the color for each face. And if you do that, then we have this lighting here, which will be present whether you have actual lighting or not. Another option we have here is force flip faces. Now you can manually, for each tile, turn flip faces on, and you can turn it off in editor if that makes it more readable for you. That will flip the faces, but doing it on the level builder ensures that it is for all of them, so you won't miss any by accident. Now if we build, you can see it's inverted, and so are the collisions, so you could have an interior level very easily by doing that. So if you just want to iterate a bit more, bang, you've got more interior level geometry, just easily with the click of a button. Now I'll turn off flip faces to go back to the normal mode. Now something else we can do, there are multiple sort of main techniques. You can do a kind of hammer editor styled interior mode where you can enclose a level and all the outside faces will be automatically gotten rid of. So we want this bit enclosed in here to be our room and the rest of it to be culled because it's outside. So you've got automatic culling, turn on interior mode and build, we only get that. Just keep in mind on very large maps that may cause very long build times, and you can see in here the amount of scans performed to check what's inside and what's outside, and that can get very high on large maps. So be careful, it may pay to just use the flip method to do interiors because you're making less tiles. You can also specify the scan radius in here, so if we turn that down, it will run quicker, but on some larger maps it may cause culling issues and might not look correct. So 30 is a good default number. And the cull bottom and cull top are where the level will end, basically, and anything above that will be automatically culled. Not super useful, but you might be making, say, a top-down game and want all the bottoms to just be gotten rid of automatically, so you could set the cull bottom to be at a certain level. Now we've got baked lighting here as well. You use a UV2. When you build with UV2, it'll automatically generate one. You can use Godot's baked lighting system. Here we've got collisions. We've got enable collisions. If you turn that off, obviously it'll disable the collisions. It won't generate any collision shapes. We've got the collision layer. Collision mask should be standard stuff if you're familiar with Godot at all. We've also got the chunk amount here, which is good on larger maps. So you could set X chunks to 2. And it would split it into 2. We might get better if we turn off interior mode. So now if we look at the meshes, there are actually 2 meshes, because there are 2 chunks, and this is good for frustrum culling, so that certain parts of the level won't be visible at all times if you're looking away from them. But on a smaller level, you might not even bother with chunks and just have it be all one mesh. Now with the more advanced shapes here, we can create a new tile, and there's all sorts of tile editing tools which will make this more customizable and powerful. So you have the dimensions on each axis, which you can use to reshape your blocks. So you could make something like that. And then you have the offset, which moves the shape. So for example, you could do a half wall or a quarter wall, and then move it to the top if you want some kind of ceiling overhang, or you could have it in the middle. Now if you want the textures to not correct like this, you can turn stretch textures on, and you will have stretched textures with no corrected offset. You can also change the texture scale here. You can turn on ignore world scale, so it will ignore the default world scale, but that doesn't update in the tiles, so it might not be worth using because it's kind of hard to see what it will look like in the final thing. You can also set the texture offset for each axis. You can also turn on ignore shading, so when you build, this one will not be shaded. You can also turn on the shading override and make a new face shading. Let's just say we want this one to have a blue front face, which could be used for some kind of lighting in a single room. We also have the material here, and I would recommend saving your materials because each unique material has extra draw calls and it generates a new mesh for it, so I would recommend saving all your materials so that you don't have any duplicate materials that look the same, eating up extra performance. Now these textures are the lab textures by Mutant Leg on itch.io. Now we have our material here. It automatically updates in the editor, and we have our texture. It's all corrected, all good. And we also have here our material overrides. So we could set the top to be this material. Maybe this is a quarter wall, and we could have a few of these. We just build to test. It's all there, cold faces. Now in the actual material settings here, this is a special type of custom material resource called a level material. You don't have to use it if you don't want to, it's fine if you don't. But it automatically has diffuse settings. It'll turn off specular, turn on the texture filtering to nearest with mip maps, so that you can get this kind of pixel art look just right off the bat. Go to the level tools here. We've got generate collisions. If you turn that off, anything with this material will not generate collisions. So you can't really see there, but there's no hitbox there. Now here we've got our material properties, which is where you create a new material properties resource. We've got material ID, so anything with this material, the collider will have these material properties and this ID. So let's just say you wanted, when you collide with a certain floor, it makes a stone footstep sound. You could have that be on material ID 1, and everything with 1 makes a stone footstep sound, and everything with 2 makes a wooden one. And it's very easy to use. And there's also some material types here. which you can add your own in the class script if you customize it yourself. But these are just here in case you'd prefer an enumerator to an ID, so it's just a bit easier. You go wood, stone, metal, etc. And you've also got a physics material here. You can set friction and stuff like that, and it'll automatically apply this to whatever static body is generated for this material. And yeah, so this will only work for physics bodies, but you could code your own implementation for a character body if you want your player to be affected by this friction level, for example. You can also apply the same tools on your material overrides here, just the same level tools. Now, something else worth mentioning is that if you have a flipped level, you cannot get very complex geometry out of the half walls and things like that. So if you try doing a really complicated shape, let's just say this, if you build that, you'll get glitches because it's not really built for doing it on the inverted face mode. So if you want really complicated geometry, you might have to do it with the automatic interior cull setting on here. Otherwise, yeah, so for inverted mode, you want probably only half walls. So things of that nature. So if I reset that, if I want a half wall, it's kind of, you have to do it the other way around. So the half wall will actually be generated in this empty space because it is inverted geometry. So there we have got a half wall. And if you've got an issue with a face here like this, how you'd fix that is by going into this and setting the material override to be that same material. And there we go, we've got our lovely little half wall. You can set this one as well, but it has to be touching either the top or the bottom, because otherwise it will cause issues with the other faces. It might also pay to have to save your face shading resource in case you modify it, so you can have the same one in every level. So for example, I have an indoor shading here, which is optimal for indoor levels, and you can see that has a much better sort of shading consistency to it. But it is up to you, you can shade it however you want. And when you are done with your level, let's just say this is the level we want, we can copy our output, just the whole folder. Here, I just have a node called level mesh. I'll just delete the current output that's in there, paste it in, just move the player to be inside there. And now we have our working level. We can jump around and hit our head. Of course, you have to make the player yourself. I'm not doing that for you. But the collisions are all done. You've got a working level. Great job. Pat yourself on the back. And that is the Codex level builder. Thank you for watching. I hope you really get the most out of this tool. If you have any suggestions for it, please let me know. I'll do my best. Thank you for watching.